and the scale, the 50-pound increments, it broke 300. And I swear there was just something about it breaking 300, like probably some sort of ignorance to the fact that I'm getting bigger and bigger and not wanting to confront it. And something about seeing it break 300 made me just have this like jaw dropping, like that can't be right. I waited a couple times. And then in that moment, I remember just a wave of emotion going through me. I was afraid, first I'm afraid, like I'm going down a path that I might die, so there's the fear. And the
And
fear
how old were
turned
you when you were 300 pounds, afraid for your life?
16 years old.
16 years old, you're thinking, oh my gosh, this could kill me.
This could kill me, and should have been thinking that 280 pounds, right? But for whatever reason, it just took this moment to where I had that, that I might go down this path. If I keep going, I'm going to die. So, that fear turned into anger, and that anger turned into action. And so, at that time, I'm still in high school. I just researched everything I could about weight loss, and made the decision. I made the decision. I scrounged up a couple bucks that I had, hired a personal trainer for 5 sessions. That's all I could afford at the time. And I literally picked the trainer that had the biggest pictures, because a lot of trainers share the story that I did, which is they lost a bunch of weight. So I found the guy that had lost the most weight, and I was like, look, this is all I can afford. I need to lose this weight. Can you just give me like a plan? And, he taught me the basics of what I need to do, which, I always tell people, besides our approach, in my opinion, this still is the best method. This is the old school method. This is the hard work. This is the committing to an exercise regimen that consists of weightlifting, cardiovascular, and then portioning my food by counting calories, eating 6 small meals a day.
This is what you were prescribed to do. This is not what you do now, just to be clear for people.
100%. And I'm glad you mentioned that. So I don't think it's sustainable, and I lived it. So it worked. I lost 100 pounds, and really came out of my awkward, my shell, and I started socializing, and I became popular, I guess you could say, and I started college. And then, boy, did I fail at maintaining the weight. And I feel like this is exactly where people run into this, this inability to sustain weight loss. Because I'm in college now, it's not the priority losing weight anymore. And anybody who's lost a lot of weight knows the high that you get, literally, from accomplishing your goals. By the way, that high is all dopamine, because you have the goal in mind, you're accomplishing it. And when you get really, really excited about something and you hit that goal, it feels like you're on drugs. And so it's a natural drug called dopamine. And so, but then when you're not losing weight anymore, that wears off. And so for me, I struggled. And year after year, it seemed like, and it's embarrassing to admit, but it seems like January would roll around. I'd start thinking about summer. I'd start thinking about looking good enough to take my shirt off at a young age and feel good and go on another extreme version of that. And every year I learned more, I acquired more knowledge, but I could never keep it off. And so I came across intermittent fasting. So we're going to talk about intermittent fasting first, because even just the concept of that was so different than anybody who's done 6 meals a day. I
Dr.
mean,
Dean, I want to pause you for just a moment here.
yes.
People are joining and are asking a few questions. So, if you want to learn about peptides and weight loss and sustainable weight loss, you're in the right place. We're here with Dr. Dean, DC, sustainable weight loss expert. He's sharing his weight loss journey. You might not know this to look at him. This man used to weigh 300 pounds.
Yeah, and anybody who hasn't seen, I got like the insane amount
He's
of
got the
loose.
stretchy skin. This man
Yeah,
used to weigh 300 pounds, and he's through many years of trial and error, he figured out a way to lose the weight and keep it off, and now he helps people do this. So he's just sharing his story so that we can understand where he's come from. And if you're just joining us, please put your first name and where you're from in the chat, so we know who's here. And then if you have a question, please put that in the chat. And so, Dr. Dean, you were just telling us you were at 300 pounds, you were afraid for your life at 16. You dropped 100 pounds by calorie counting, basically, which was very hard, not sustainable. You gained weight back, and you're trying to get back in shape over the summer to look good for to look good for the summer. So you would take your shirt off, and you were basically doing the calorie counting exercise and a lot. Is that right?
yep. And by the way, you can tell Dr. Love is good at going live. I'm glad you know what you're doing here. This is my first time, so this is super exciting.
You're
But
crushing.
So yeah, intermittent fasting, it took me a year to actually try it because it was so different. And I was kind of latched on to the only successful action that I had. But I finally get, so now I'm probably in my mid early 20s, maybe like 23 years old at this point. I'm starting intermittent fasting, probably more like 22. And to my surprise, it worked. And what I noticed, the first shock was, and I'll talk about this briefly, is this idea. Anybody who uh, understands the importance of muscle mass, especially how it relates to weight loss, you're lifting weights, you think you got to eat protein every couple hours in order to build muscle mass and maintain muscle mass. But once I broke that and realized that that's just completely false, your body, and then you look at the science behind it, your body actually stores amino acids for quite some time. So there is no benefit to muscle growth when you're in terms of getting enough adequate protein by spacing it out every 3 hours. So I learned that very quickly by my intermittent fasting journey, not losing muscle mass. But then more importantly, just by decreasing that window of time throughout the day, it's just harder to overeat. It's easier to portion your overall food. So I would say that for me, intermittent fasting didn't solve the entire problem, but it made a huge dent. Instead of zigzagging 50 pounds or so every year, I started zigzagging 30, 20 pounds. And then a few more years later, I come across prolonged fasting, which basically there's different definitions for this. I define it as anything more than 24 hours. And prolonged fasting can go even much longer than that. But once I started playing around with that 24, 48, to me, that was the missing piece. Once
Fasting
I,
for 24 hours to 48 hours, that's what started making a difference for you.
that's what started making a difference because, and I'll tell you a little bit about why this is. Your average person at rest, it's called BMR, basal metabolic rate. They're going to burn about anywhere from on the low end 1,500 calories upwards of 2,000 calories every single day at rest. That's how many calories an average person will need to consume just to maintain weight. Okay, so if you're fasting for 48 hours, you're doubling that. That's almost 3 to 4,000 calories, and we call that a caloric deficit because you didn't eat. Do you know how much exercise it would take to burn that many calories? Moderate level aerobic exercise.
I so agree with you. People think the answer to losing weight is exercise, and that's simply not true. They'll eat a piece of cake. They'll say, "Oh, I'll just run." The amount of you'd have to run for like 3 hours to burn off a piece of cake. You can't outrun a bad diet, right? Write this
Oh,
down. You can't outrun a bad diet. And so by not eating during this period, how many hours of exercise is that? 3,000 calories. How many hours of hard
well,
exercise?
so it's about 5 to 600 calories you're going to burn from an hour of moderate to moderate high level intensity.
Okay, so let's say 500, 3,000 divided by 500 would be six. So
6 hours,
6 hours. So you got to go running for 6 hours.
or, or just do something that simultaneously. Here's the cool thing about it: you're not just fasting just for the weight loss portion of it, but you're also doing something that's extremely healthy for you that I personally advocate as a functional practitioner. I think even if your weight is fine, everybody should be doing some amount of long fasting. I think it's in our genetics. If you look at ancestrally what they had to do in order to survive, if you look at the way body fat is stored on a body, it's stored in the midsection for convenient and effective travel of basically an energy tank. And so I think we're built to fast. And I think one of the missing pieces of optimal health, not even just focusing on fat maintenance, is regular amounts of prolonged fasting. So I consider this double dipping, and I'm all about as being efficient as I possibly can. And so that's why I'm
Absolutely.
such a proponent of this.
So what he's referring to as double dipping, if you didn't catch this, is that fasting is a great way to lose weight, and it's a great way to just benefit our overall body. It's good for our metabolism. It's good for something called autophagy, self-eating. We clean out old cells, old mitochondria. It's good for the brain. If you've ever been fasting, you know it increases alertness in the brain. All kinds of benefits of fasting. Almost every major religion, I think every major religion has a fasting tradition. Not to be religious about it, but simply fasting is something our ancestors figured out is really, really healthy for us. Is that what you mean?
100%. And on the religious thing, it's actually really cool. Um, Regardless of what you subscribe to, uh, pray when you're at the end. If you do incorporate praying into your lifestyle, there is something magical about praying near the end of a deep fast
Oh,
because
interesting.
you're, what was that?
I said interesting.
Yeah, yeah. So it's been said, and this is all, anecdotal, that you'll have a better connection with whatever type of metaphysical realm that you subscribe to. So that's a whole other cool thing. We could probably do a separate talk about that. But then for your listeners, for your viewers, I love the fact that it increases BDNF, that brain derived neurotropic factor, and everybody that is in your group is trying to prevent
That's
Alzheimer's.
right.
So
So
you probably
evolving
know.
lines. Let's give a roar. Let's give a big hand in for BDNF. It comes from exercise, comes from lion's mane. If you got your roar lion's mane, it also comes from fasting. BDNF helps grow new brain cells, new neural connections in the brain. It is great. Let's get a big roar for BDNF. And then if you're liking what Dr. Dean is saying, if you're liking what he's sharing, please give a like, please give a thumbs up, please give a roar. And we're going to get into peptides in just a moment and how about how this can help make fasting easier and more effective. So if you're just joining us, we're here with Dr. Dean Jones, DC, out of Denver, Colorado. He is my longevity and anti-aging doctor. He's who I see for stem cells, for peptides, and for help in the anti-aging space. I send clients to him because I want my clients to work with the best. And he's sharing his weight loss journey. He used to weigh 300 pounds. He zigzagged up and down for years, and then he found the powers of fasting and the ability to use fasting not only to improve, not only to lose weight, but also improve his brain health and overall health.
Absolutely, absolutely. Cool. So,
Ooh, oh, Dr. Dean, you can't see all the comments. Francesca just wrote, "He looks hot." So,
thank you,
so you're,
Francesca.
you're you're doing some good stuff. And so, by the way, let's keep up the racier remarks on the chat. I love seeing these things. This is
I
this
love
is this
that.
is great. So please have fun in the chat and please ask your questions.
I do see a question actually. Does semaglutide suppress appetite to a point you can skip meals or just reduce consumption? This actually relates big time, and we're probably going to get into this more later. But just to answer that, it both, right? So, in my over 15 years of being in the weight loss industry, I have never seen anything as powerful as semaglutide and tirzepatide at suppressing your appetite to the point where you can either just eat less or also going with the mindset which we advocate to our patients is to go ahead and fast. I will say that at the end of a 48-hour fast, you are still going to get some hunger, even with the semaglutide tirzepatide, but it is a much more manageable amount of hunger than would it be if you try to do a 48-hour fast right off the gate. And so, yeah, great question though.
so from your experience, peptides and specific peptides are some of the most powerful appetite suppressants you have ever seen.
Hands down. The only thing that comes close would be that phentermine. It's an FDA approved medication, but that is that one's not as strong. But that's the closest thing to appetite suppressant. But man, you got to think of all the different. It's very very tough in the cardiovascular system. It's very 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 tough overall in the system. And so for us, the only time we'd ever recommend that is like looking at the patient and they're obese, no other options. There's a time and place for that. But now we have these peptides, these GLP-1 agonists that are just a game changer in the appetite
Yeah.
suppressant space.
So tell us about what peptides are. I'm going to give my brief understanding, and then you can go into more detail. So for those of you who are new to peptides, peptides are short chain amino acids, usually 21, 23 amino acids or less, and they have health benefits. They're found naturally in the body. They've been isolated, and now people are taking them to increase healing. I've taken peptides to increase healing, healing of like my shoulder, for example, improve the immune system, help with sleep, help with energy, help with sexual vitality, and even help with weight loss and burning fat, increasing growth hormone, and so forth. And so these are a very safe, effective way. If you've read Tony Robbins' book, he's talking about peptides. Peptides are what professional athletes are using to heal and recover. Peptides are what celebrities are using to look younger and be healthier. They're really the cutting edge in medicine. And Dr. Dean, I'd love to hear more in depth about what peptides are, how people can use them, and how you use peptides in your weight loss program. And by the way, if you don't know this already, his weight loss program has a 94% success rate. Write that down. 94% success rate. The average success rate with weight loss is 20% or less over the year. He's at 94. So his success rate with weight loss is really terrific. So please tell us more about peptides, Dr. Dean, and how you use those for weight loss.
Yeah, so that was a very good description. I always use the analogy of hormones to kind of give a good comparison. So hormones, your body makes them. They float around. They activate and by encountering a certain tissue and organ, and they turn on certain processes. A peptide is very, very similar. There's actually over 7,000 peptides in the human body that have been identified. And so they're barely manufacturing a fraction of that right now. So it's kind of crazy and kind of cool at the same time to think about the potential future of medicine. And so we're still at the early grounds of this, but there's about 50 or so commonly prescribed peptides in the anti-aging space. We're going to talk about two ones that I love for our weight loss program. But there's like Dr. Love was saying, there's so many different peptides. And what I love about peptides is they are different than a drug, right? So a drug is created to have a certain action because it acts also on receptor sites like peptides. But drugs are foreign to the human body, right? So that is why they come with a whole host of side effects, ranging from minor to deadly, as we all know. Peptides are something that the body it's an innate communication. So some people call them cell communication, cell signaling. So just like hormone therapy, you get on testosterone therapy because your body's natural production of testosterone has decreased over time. Well, you inject these peptides because your signal has weakened over time. And you can do a whole separate talk about why that is, but the general gist of it is we're being bombarded with so much endocrine disruptors and so much toxicity around us at an exponentially increasing rate. So our bodies are suffering, and
So,
so
so for those of you who missed it, I want you to get this. These are not drugs. All right. You do need a prescription to get them. It's really important you just don't buy them online. I want you to be safe, so please don't do that. So you need a prescription to get these. And peptides are naturally found in the body. Drugs are foreign to the body and often have side effects. Okay, I want you to get that distinction. Peptides found inside the body and have benefits to healing and health. Drugs are manufactured outside the body and are not natural to the body and often have side effects. Is that the right distinction there?
correct. And I will. I'm seeing a bunch of I'm going to see a bunch of questions, so I'm going to hit a couple questions and I'll go back. But yes, that's correct. And so this is a good question right here. Can diabetics do fasting? I'm scared sugar levels are going to drop so low. So that's a very complex question. And just as a caveat, I'm not giving anybody any medical advice. You'll need to talk to your primary care physician before, and especially as a diabetic. With that being said, I am a big believer of fasting, and I think diabetics can benefit from fasting. So now we got to unravel that. What kind of diabetes are we talking about? Pre-diabetes, type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes. You can put pre and type 2 in a similar category. Essentially, your body is making insulin, but it's not responding to insulin. And then type 1 is kind of its own component, which can be comboed with 2, where your body is just not making enough insulin. And like I said, you might not be responding either. So let's talk about real quick the pre and the type 2. So in that situation, we call that insulin resistance. And insulin resistance is the result of that over time, your body has this process of consumption of sugar and consumption of glucose and not burning enough. And so your body's always trying to produce insulin to lower the blood sugar because high blood sugar will kill you over time. But then that internal system almost gets overran. And so over time, your cells don't respond as well to insulin. And so we get this condition called insulin resistance, which the medical term would be pre-diabetes or diabetes. So if we think about the mechanism that led to that, the constant stimulus of here's the food, store it, blood sugar rises, insulin gets secreted, tries to drive the blood sugar down over and over and over. What was the initial insult? It's the consumption of food. The consumption of food is what starts that entire process and overruns and burns out that system. And of course, I'm oversimplifying it. There's genetics, there's stress, there's so much more. But this is like the main driving factor is the best way to put it. And so fasting, what is fasting? Not eating. And so when you don't eat, you are literally doing the opposite of the driving mechanism behind prediabetes and type 2 diabetes. So absolutely, I think fasting is one of the best things you can do as a diabetic. Just the caveat, though, is like you said in your concern, you might go hypoglycemic. And so it is something that you have to be, if you're going to make your own decision, because I can tell you right now, you're probably not going to get your blessing from your PCP, unfortunately, unless you're working with a functional or holistic type PCP. And rightfully so. I don't think they should recommend it because they don't have the ability to keep you safe. So nothing against them. I understand where they're coming from. But if you're going to make your own decision to take health into your matter, into your own control, which I always recommend, everybody should be questioning everything and making a decision for themselves. I do think that if you're going to embark on that journey, that the way to be safe about it, if you're a pre-diabetic or type 2, is have obviously you probably already have a glucose monitor. A continuous glucose monitor is one of the best ways to constantly be looking at your blood sugar. I wouldn't operate any vehicles the first time you get into a longer fast, and listen to your body. Keep a log of your blood sugar levels in terms of how long you are in the fast, so that you can get an idea of, like, for example, I'm pushing myself. I've never done fasting. So 16-8, where you're doing 8 hours of eating, 16 hours of fasting. Let's say that's where you're starting. You've never done that before. Keep a log of essentially how long you were able to go every day, kind of what it felt like in terms of when you hit that roadblock, and then eat. Don't push yourself to the point where, you do go hypoglycemic. You want to catch yourself and break that fast when your blood sugar starts to drop and you get those early signs, but don't push yourself into anything dangerous. And then you document that. And then the next time you do it, it's a constant improvement. There's a lot of supplements and things you can do to aid your body in that adaptive response. But the quick end of it is that is how fasting can help diabetics. And then when you get into type 1, that's when it gets really complex, because now you have a lot more going on. And so the short answer of that is I have worked with patients that, and our clinic has worked with patients that have decided to embark on that journey. And basically, it is just like we talked about before, but with even more caveats of being even more careful. So that's a great question, though. I'm glad somebody asked that. So.
And for those of you who don't know, fasting is a great way just to improve brain health, and then reducing the risk of diabetes, either through weight loss or fasting, is really important for reducing the risk of Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's disease is often termed type 3 diabetes. Why? Because many of the people who get Alzheimer's disease have that metabolic dysfunction of diabetes or pre-diabetes. So if you want to, by the way, the statistics are people who are 80 years old in the United States, as of today, have a 50% chance of having some form of dementia. 50% chance, coin flip, whether or not you have dementia if you're age 80 or older. If you want to reduce that, losing weight now, keeping it off, and reducing the risk of type 2 diabetes is a great way to significantly reduce your risk of Alzheimer's disease in the future. We're here with Dr. Dean Jones, DC, from Denver, Colorado. He's he's an expert in sustainable weight loss, and who I go to see for longevity and anti-aging treatments. And Dr. Dean is sharing with us about how he uses peptides to help people lose weight and keep it off. And he has a 94% success rate. 94% success rate of helping people lose weight and keep it off. People are asking, what does that mean, a success rate? It means people lose 20 pounds or more in 2 months, and then they keep it off. That's what he's been able to do with the help of peptides, which are naturally occurring amino acids in your body. By the way, some of you have asked to go. Click the link below my profile, and you can register to get a free ebook and some free information from Dr. Dean about peptides and weight loss. Totally free. That's the first link below my profile. If you click that, if you got a jet. But we're going to be on here for a while answering questions about peptides. So, Dr. Dean, can you give us the details? People want to know how the heck are you helping people lose weight with peptides, and how is it lasting?
So we got to kind of understand a little bit about why weight loss is so unsustainable, right? So when you look at the stats, that's where I want to start. The statistics say that 80% of people who embark on a weight loss program and lose more than 10% of their body weight fail to keep it off within a year.
So if I'm 200 pounds and I drop 20, if I were 200 pounds, I'd want to drop probably 30 at least. But let's say I lose 20, 80% of those people gain the weight back in a year. Is that right?
Yeah. And just kind of practically, everybody take a moment and think about all the people that that have lost a decent amount of weight. How many of them actually kept it off years later? And you'll kind of realize that those numbers played out in reality. And I lived it. I lived it for 10 freaking years. And I have permanent skin that won't tighten up because of that. Call it my battle wounds. But, you know, it is, and look, it's not just skin issues. The constant yo-yoing is horrible for your metabolism. It's inflammatory. And I also think that psychologically it messes with you big time as well. And so anyhow, those are the statistics, right? And so when we look at weight loss and we look at how do we keep it off, right? So most people would agree when you lose weight, you got to carry over something into the post weight loss phase in order for you to be able to keep it off. And the only thing that you're going to know how to innately carry over is whatever it is you did to lose the weight, right? So we look at all the different weight loss methods, and we talked about my favorite besides my program, which is the old school method. But let's look at some of the other popular methods. Keto diet. Keto diet it got extremely popular. Atkins diet was the one before that. That was huge. That was huge, and rightfully so, because at that time it was like it seemed to be like the best program out there. People were losing insane amounts of weight. They weren't counting their calories. It was awesome. But if you follow the Atkins trend, a lot of people gain their weight back. And so and understand that just from our society alone, it's kind of freaking crazy to think anybody is going to sit there and say, I'm not going to eat a piece of bread, or I'm not going to eat, you know, a gluten-free this, depending on whether you're gluten-free or not, for the rest of your life. Like, God bless everybody for making that commitment through the excitement of wanting to lose weight. But I don't know how many of those people sat down and really looked at it and said, can I really keep this up for the rest of my life? And so I think if most people were told to think this way in the beginning, I'm sure they probably wouldn't have started that program as enthusiastically as they did. And, you know, it's unfortunate. So then we look at, we talked about the old school method with counting calories, counting macros. That's hard to sustain from a time commitment. And then you look at companies, there's so many on Facebook. I get hit up all the time with, okay, we'll take the guesswork out of your portions and you can just order the food and it comes to you. It's high quality, it's organic, it's portioned, and it's pricey, but if you can afford that, I think that's great too for the busy person. But then even then, are you going to order from that same company for the rest of your life? And so none of these programs that I saw really identify or provide a way for somebody to lean on to for the rest of their life that they can look at and go, I can commit to this. And so from my own personal observation with the prolonged fasting, I feel like that is the answer. The prolonged fasting yields a wiggle room, a comfort that it makes up for the lack of everything else that you might not be able to consistently keep up with, right? What are those things? We got to do some working out. We got to be eating higher quality. We got to be reducing the amount of junk food that we eat. I don't think you should entirely get rid of it, the exception being some pretty severe autoimmune disease. If you have some pretty severe autoimmune disease, then you're going to have to confront some real tough decisions. But for people that don't have severe autoimmune diseases and want to live a little, I don't think you should cut that out entirely, but you should you got a portion. You got a portion if you want to be able to keep the weight off. So all of those things are still in play in my program, but by having people fast in the format that we do, which by the way, guys, on average is about a 48-hour weekly fast. And I expect some eyes to open and some jaws to drop. 48-hour weekly fast. That means every 7-day cycle, that's 2 full days. I'm going to have you do it.
So hang on. If you're skeptical, you're in the right place, because when he first shared this with me, we had a deep dive conversation on this. I said, "You got to
I
be kidding me."
remember you were like, "Whoa."
I did. I did a head turn. I'm like, really? This works for people. This is fascinating. So he's about to share with us the tools that he uses to make 48-hour fast easy and productive, and make it easier to stick to a diet. Because as he said, a lot of people, it's easier for me to stick to a diet. I've done it for years, and it's not easy, but it's easier because I don't go out to eat very much and so forth. And my friends are all crazy like I am. We barely eat junk food. It's easier for someone to maintain this because it's got a lot of flexibility in it once you get it down. So Dr. Dean, tell us, how are you able to get people to not eat for 48 hours every week for a little while? And how are they able to sustain the weight loss? This is going to blow your mind, everyone. So get out your notepad. This is fascinating.
So it is possible without these peptides, but it is downright very, very hard, right? So when these peptides came out, this is what was the game changer. This was the catalyst that really caused us to just reach a whole new space of patients out there, because what we do is we utilize a combination of two peptides. So a lot of us have heard of these GLP-1s, and so there's two of them. There's semaglutide and tirzepatide. And I'm talking about them both because everybody's talking about them both, and I just want to be clear. They both do close enough to the same things that we're just going to call them GLP-1s. So you need a GLP-1 because the roadblocks to starting a intense fasting regimen is going to be hunger, the obvious, but then the other thing is the energy. So we're gonna finish talking about the hunger first because that one's easier to understand, and then we'll talk about the other one. So the hunger is going to be met very, very well with tirzepatide or with semaglutide. Anybody who's heard about it understands everybody's raving about it. It's a very, very powerful appetite suppressant, and we're going to go into more details of just that peptide in a little bit, but I want to focus on just the program. So we handle the appetite with the GLP-1, but then the other part of it is the body's ability to burn the fat. So we got to dissect that a little bit. So there's this term called metabolic flexibility, which is not an official medical term, but it's being used and recognized because what it referred, even Jason Fung and Peter Attia talk about metabolic flexibility. And those, if you don't know who those are very, very prominent figures in the weight loss and fasting arena as well. So metabolic flexibility refers to your metabolism's ability to burn fat, either the fat that you consume or what we're trying to accomplish, the fat on your body, right? And so the name itself kind of implies that, right? So you got a metabolism and you got two categories of fuel. You got carbohydrates and you got fat. And so if your metabolism is flexible, it means it can do both. All of us off the street are going to be great at burning carbohydrates because you have to. If you don't know how to burn carbohydrates effectively, you would die because that is the primary source of fuel for your brain is glucose. Although it can run off of fat in a form called ketones. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. But metabolic flexibility means that your body is also good at burning fat in addition to burning carbohydrates. And so this is what is going to get better innately in your bodies after you do a couple months of this regimen of fasting. So I'm going to repeat that. After a couple of months of regimented, consistent, prolonged fasting and keto diet, by the way, guys, keto diet also does this. And so usually we tell our patients if they want to do a keto diet on the other 5 days as well. That'll make the results come even faster. So keto diet and this regimented, consistent, prolonged fasting is going to cause the internal systems, the metabolism to become more flexible. Well, why is that important? Because I want this to be sustainable. I do not want anybody to be dependent on any aids, especially peptides, which are not as cheap as supplements. I want you to be able to rely on your own self to be able to maintain the weight. And so what you're building is a more flexible metabolism so that in the future, you can fast for 48 hours and you don't need the help with the peptides. But in the beginning, the second peptide that we do, because we're going to need the help because our metabolism, our body's not going to be good at mobilizing the fat fast enough. That peptide is called AOD 9604. And that's a lesser known. That one's not going viral. A lot of people aren't talking about it. It's actually it's short for anti-obesity drug. So it's got a good amount of literature. It's actually approved by the FDA, but it's not as flashy, right? And that's a good way. It's not as flashy as the GLP-1s. But the way I use it is in combination with the GLP-1 to support the fasting, because again, the two roadblocks are going to be the hunger and the energy. And so when your metabolism innately isn't flexible, this is why I call AOD 9604 artificially induced metabolic flexibility. It essentially makes your metabolism flexible during the adaptation phase to where you can plug and play this program into your life and be able to do it. Because I know a lot of us have jobs, have responsibilities, have kids. And if you had the time to do everything else, you would be doing it. And also, since we do pain management in our clinic, we get a lot of patients that can't even work out even if they have the time because they got bad knees, bad backs, things of that nature. And so they don't even have the option of working out. And so they're fully relying on the fasting to be able to burn the body fat and lose the weight. And so
the major tool for weight loss that we're talking about, by the way, if you're just coming in, please put your first name, where you're from in the chat. If you've learned something, put that in there. And if you like the idea of losing weight quickly and painlessly, give a like or a thumbs up to this talk. We're here with Dr. Dean Jones, DC, a sustainable weight loss expert, and he's who I see for my anti-aging longevity treatments. So here's the protocol that he's just shared with us. If you're just arriving, his secret to helping his program has a 94% success rate for sustainable weight loss. What he does is he helps people fast for 48 hours at a time. And he does it, and he does this in a painless way. There are two peptides that he uses. One's a GLP-1 peptide. You can write these down if you like. We have a free ebook for you if you click the link below my profile if you want to get all this. A GLP-1 peptide called semaglutide or tirzepatide. The name's not important, but semaglutide, tirzepatide. This blocks hunger in two ways. Very cool. One is through the gut. So it blocks the hunger in the physical way. You feel more full for longer in your stomach. Number two, it blocks hunger in the brain. So it turns off the brain's hunger signal. So you're not getting it from here and you're not getting it from your gut. So that makes it really a lot easier to fast. It makes it less painful to fast. Who's experienced pain when fasting? I certainly have. This makes a huge difference. This cuts down the pain, makes it a lot easier to fast. And when you're fasting, you're in a calorie deficit and you're burning calories. Number two, this is really cool, and I have not heard this before talking with Dr. Dean about this. This is why his program's so successful. He's got another peptide called AOD. Is it what's the number?
9604.
AOD 9604. This facilitates the usage of your fat for energy. So when you take this peptide, your body starts burning your fat for energy. This makes your fasting much more effective. So one, it's easier to fast because it's not painful. Hunger signals have been turned down or turned off. Number two, you're burning fat. And so you have energy. So imagine not fasting and feeling great. Be like, oh my gosh, I got tons of energy, and you're watching the weight burn off. And then this teaches your body metabolic flexibility. So in 2 months' time, you can actually fast without peptides, and it's not hard. So you train your body and brain for a couple months on the peptides. You lose the weight, you get the metabolic flexibility, and then you don't need the peptides, and then you can just maintain your weight with fasting.
Fasting and exactly fasting with a combination of the other things as well that we're all trying to do but just can't do enough of. That's how I like to kind of word it. But yeah, just to add a little point on the AOD, it does burn fat on its own right. But with our program, it's really the fasting that's burning the fat. It's the AOD that's mobilizing it, right? Because when we think about the process of burning fat, you have to mobilize the fat first. You can't even burn it if you don't mobilize it. And so that's part of the process of being able to mobilize it first before it can be shuttled and utilized and go through the various processes it goes through. So AOD, that is the key right there. It'll burn some fat on its own. It does increase basal metabolic rate. And so that's why it was and it is an anti-obesity drug on its own without fasting. But I think the results pale in comparison with AOD alone when you're not pairing it with fasting. So
excellent. So Dr. Dean, we're getting a bunch of questions. People want to know how to get peptides. How do we do this? How do we work with you? So Dr. Dean's knocking 10% off for my followers, anyone who wants to work with him for sustainable weight loss. And he's got some free resources for you. So grab these now, totally free. Click the link below my profile or go to robertlove.net. So there's a link right above my name. And then if you go to my profile, it's right below there. The first link says sustainable weight loss with peptides. Click that, enter your name, email, and phone number. A couple of free resources for you. You get Dr. Dean's ebook. He wrote an ebook on sustainable weight loss. So that's one free resource. Number two, you get a presentation on peptides for sustainable weight loss that will answer a ton of your questions. And then if you want to work with Dr. Dean, you certainly don't have to, but if you want to work to, he can work with people all around the country. Dr. Dean, you have clients coast to coast, right?
Yeah.
So people work with him all around the country. I flew into Denver to work with him because you can't do stem cells from across the country, but you can do peptides from across the country. And then you get a great discount if you choose to work with him. All of that is available at the link below my profile or robertlove.net, and it's the first link. Enter all your information there. You get a bunch of free resources from him. And if you want to just learn and you're not ready to sign up, that's totally fine. We just want you to have this information because it's really important that you know that sustainable weight loss is possible. So please let me know if anyone's having trouble with that. Some people are having trouble with the CAPTCHA, Dr. Dean. And so if that's still happening,
It looks like they fixed it. So I see some comments there that form is working now. So my guy was doing some last minute tweaks on the form. So
okay,
glad to see that the form is working.
great.
Question: looking for maintenance as Monjaro coupon will run out soon. This is exactly what currently doing intermittent fasting. 16.8, but 48 question mark, question mark, question mark. So hopefully with what I've already said so far that you pretty much got the answer to that question. I'm not a fan of being reliant on these medications. And every time I post a video about this, it's like I hurt some feelings out there, which I understand. And so I always now say, look, are there people that probably need this medication for the rest of their life? Absolutely. But I think every person, and I challenge every person, especially if you're in a situation where you've lost all the weight, didn't do it on my program, but you lost the weight on this medication, because I work with people post weight loss too, because that I think that's just as important as well. Even if you lost your weight, how do you transition into the maintenance schedule if you didn't do it my way? And you're
This
aware
is
that
the
this
key to
is
sustainable weight loss, right? It's not just taking peptides to shed 20 pounds in 2 months, which you do on his program, right? It's not just that. It's sustainable weight loss that you can keep out for the rest of your life and not sacrifice some of the foods that you love, right? You don't need to give up sugar for the rest of your life. It's a good idea to do that, but you don't need to do that. So yeah, Dr. Dean, tell us about the sustainability aspect of this, the maintenance aspect of this, please.
Yep. Because this person, and I'll relate to this question because I think this is a great question, and a lot of people are going to be coming or in this situation where they've lost the weight. So for most people, intermittent fasting, 16/8, as awesome as it is, and there's so much chatter about it on YouTube, it's just not enough for most people. And that's the key right there. A 16/8 window is great, but for most people, it's just not enough of a stimulus to give that what I like to call magical maintenance, right? Like a very powerful aid. 48 hours is, though. And so if you are somebody like this person who's asking this question, I would strongly recommend that you start increasing your fasting as fast as you can to work up to that point, so that you can then build that metabolic flexibility that we just talked about, so that you can lean on periods of longer fasting as you transition off the Monjaro. Now, I don't know how fast your Monjaro is obviously going to get pulled,
And what
but
is Monjaro? Can you tell us what Monjaro is?
Monjaro is the drug name for tirzepatide, and Ozempic is the drug name for semaglutide.
Okay. So these are people basically taking peptides right now for weight loss, but they didn't do it with your sustainable protocol. So basically, here I'm guessing this is what these people are doing. They're taking peptides for weight loss, for appetite suppression, and it's working. The problem is they're not doing your protocol, which teaches you sustainable weight loss and sustainable weight maintenance. And so when they go off these appetite suppressants, they're likely to eat more and gain the weight back. Is that likely happening?
Yeah, that's my big concern. And the reason why I'm so adamant about that potentially happening, I don't have a crystal ball, but I can state with you why I feel that way, is that was already a problem before these peptides even came to market. It was already a fact that people couldn't keep their weight off. So if that problem already existed, and now we have this magical peptide or magical drug, we'll talk about the difference between the two in a second, because I know you asked me the other day too, Doc. Now we have this magical appetite suppressing peptide that is making it so much easier and opening the door to more people who couldn't lose weight before. Now we have that happening. What do you think that's going to happen to the already existing statistic about people's inability to sustain their weight loss? You're going to perpetuate it, in my opinion, based off of that. Take it for what it's worth. You can completely disagree with me. But that's why I'm so concerned about that. And just simply Google post GLP weight gain, post semaglutide weight gain. People are already starting to talk about it. There's already literature that states that you're going to have a regain and hopefully end with like a certain amount of net loss, which would still be better for some people. But now I'm attempting to educate everybody on this other side of the spectrum, where if we do it in this fashion, you're just going to be so much better off in the long run.
Yes. So if you understand what Dr. Dean's trying to do here, by the way, if you're just joining us, please enter your first name, where you're from in the chat. This is Dr. Dean, DC, who's an expert in sustainable weight loss and a longevity doctor. He's who I see for my stem cells and peptides. He's got a protocol that is not just taking peptides for weight loss. It is sustainable because it teaches your body. He uses peptides in a really smart way. I could tell how smart he was when he told me about the stem cell program. I'm just going to go on a short tangent here.
Yeah, yeah.
He said, look, I don't just give stem cells. Before you come in for stem cells, we prep your body. We reduce the inflammation. We make sure you're getting good sleep. We get you eating right. So when you take the stem cells, they survive in your body. And then post stem cells, we got you doing the right things. So that way you're regrowing cartilage, right? He's thinking 10 steps in advance, right? He's not just giving injections. He's really helping people heal. With the weight loss, same deal. It'd be easy for people to just come in, give people peptides, have people lose 10, 20 pounds, and then say, oh, well, you gained the weight back. That's your fault. No, that's not what this is about. This is about sustainable weight loss because he's using them in a way to teach your body to be metabolically flexible, to fast for 48 hours without pain, without hunger, or minimal pain, minimal hunger, maximum fat burning, and then to transition into fasting without peptides easily in a way that's healthy for your body to maintain your weight. So you can maintain your weight without peptides. That's the whole thing. If you need peptides to maintain your weight loss throughout the rest of your life, that's not really sustainable unless you want to pay for peptides for the rest of your life. He's teaching you how to do that in a different way. He's got a 94% success rate. If that sounds cool to you, click the link below my profile or go to robertlove.net and get his free ebook on sustainable weight loss and sign up for his free webinar on peptides for sustainable weight loss. robertlove.net is the first link. 74 of you have already clicked there. Get his stuff because I want you to have this information because you can lose the weight and keep it off. And this man's helped people do it in a very, very smart way. And people are asking, how do I get peptides? They come with his program, right? So he and his team are able to prescribe peptides. You need to get peptides from a doctor, and he's got the protocol dialed in to really help you lose weight. He's got electrolytes figured out. He's got all the stuff to make the fasting easier.
And I just want to add a thing too as well, because I don't want to take all the credit. I have amazing practitioners that I work with in my clinic. The name of our clinic is Colorado Medical Solutions. It's not Dr. Jones Medical Solutions. I just want to be clear. So I have a great team of practitioners that I work side by side with. And I actually am fortunate enough to work with my best friend, Jonathan Keith, and he has worked in the fitness industry as long as I have. And so actually, excuse me, a lot longer because I ended up going to get my doctorate of chiropractic. And he stayed in the fitness industry. So he actually has even well above me an additional 10 years of fitness experience. And so really, when we came up with this protocol, it was a collaboration between all of us putting our heads together and trying to solve this problem of sustainable weight loss. And I definitely wouldn't be here without them.
That's very humble of you. So Dr. Dean is not only a cutting edge expert, but he collaborates with the best. We've collaborated on a couple of things. He's really open-minded and he does his research. He's great to collaborate with. And I met your team in person. I worked with your team. They drew my blood. They laughed at my jokes. Some of them were funny. Not all of them were. His team is awesome. At the end of the day, I said, how did you find these people? These people are great. They're professional. They're emotionally intelligent. Like they were comforting when they were doing the procedure. Your team rocks. So if you see him in person, his team's great. But a lot of you are not going to want, or a lot of you don't need to see him in person unless you're in the Denver area because he works with people coast to coast. So you don't need an in-person visit to do the weight loss program, to do the sustainable weight loss with peptides.
That's important to understand because it'd be super hard to fly in for.
So he works with people all around the country, beginning to work with people internationally. And then someone asked about menopause. A couple of people asked, does this work for women in menopause?
Yeah, so we also do women's health bioidentical hormone therapy program. I let Laura, my women's health practitioner, specialize in that because I can tell you, women are much harder to balance hormonally than men in terms of balancing testosterone. So when it comes to women, it's a much more delicate endocrine system. You're dealing with smaller amounts of hormones. You're dealing with a much more finicky system is probably the best way to describe it. So in terms of does it work with menopause? I guess I'm not exactly sure if they mean can they still lose weight? Absolutely, you can still lose weight. Menopause by the way, for people who are wondering specifically, it's that beginning of the decrease of production in estrogen for women, and so it comes with a whole cascade. Mainly, night sweats and hot flashes being the worst thing they've ever experienced. And talking to so many women over the years that deal with that, I mean, it's life altering. And so, in terms of a direct effect with the body's ability to lose body fat, no, it's generally speaking not. Other than the symptoms of the menopause being so devastating that you couldn't follow our protocol. But which if you're dealing with that, go get some freaking BHRT. We don't have the ability to prescribe out of state for controlled substances, but definitely find yourself, if you're a woman dealing with that, a bioidentical hormone therapy clinic to help you out with that. But as far as sustainable weight loss, even if you didn't do hormones, let's say, for example, you fall into a category where unfortunately you can't do hormones because there are some contraindications, then weight loss is probably one of the best things you can do, because dropping weight will decrease inflammation and will help stabilize the hormones. Not as much as supplementing with the hormones, obviously, but it'll still help improve a reasonable amount of those symptoms, in addition with some functional aspects of addressing inflammation through the proper supplementation, dietary changes, things of that nature.
Fantastic. So this can help with women in menopause. We got a couple questions. How do I get a hold of you? So if you want to work with Dr. Dean and you want a 10% discount on his weight loss program and you want his free ebook, click the link below my profile, enter your full contact info. He'll send you his ebook and his the video on peptides and sustainable weight loss right away, and you get a great discount because Dr. Dean is awesome and he's being really generous with my followers. Number two, if you're having trouble with the link, it's not working, send me a message on Instagram and I'll connect you with Dr. Dean and his team directly. So I know a number of you it's working well. Some of you it's not. I don't know why. It might be a browser issue. So if you're having trouble signing in, it's not working, just send me a message on Instagram and I'll make sure that you get his stuff. We're gonna have Dr. Dean on again. We're getting way too many comments to not have you on again soon. But if it's not for some reason, we'll get you set up.
For sure. And I saw another great question on my end is muscle loss. So there's some literature that talks about muscle loss with the usage of these GLP-1s. And so, also some of my favorite mentors that I follow also brought this up too as well. Peter Attia had a whole workup and where he talked about this. And so, in my opinion, the reason why people are experiencing, because it's happening, people are experiencing muscle mass loss. I don't blame the GLP-1s. I blame a couple things, mainly a consistent caloric deficit in combination with the lack of resistance training. So I want to bring that back to fasting, because then you might be wondering, well, then how come fasting doesn't cause that? So let's talk about that, because fasting does not actually. You don't lose muscle mass until you fast to an extreme amount. Usually beyond 3, 4, 5 days is when your body will switch it and start getting into muscle loss. But those long fasting, 2 or 3 days, your fasting is actually protective against muscle loss. So that's really, really important to understand. So with regards to what people are taking GLP-1s, we got to look at that research and look at your average person who's taking the GLP-1 medication. Chances are they're not doing the things that they need to do to protect that muscle mass. And so general weight loss, doesn't matter how you're doing it. If you lose weight and you are not doing resistance training, you are essentially guaranteed that a percentage of your weight loss will come from muscle mass. It's inevitable no matter how you lose it. You could slow down the weight loss rate. That's going to slow down the percentage of muscle mass loss. But resistance training is going to be hands down one of the best methods in any weight loss program to protect the muscle mass. And it's so important to protect the muscle mass. I don't care if aesthetically you just do not want to even look muscular. Muscle mass is very metabolically active tissue. Literally, a pound of muscle burns more calories at rest in your body than a pound of body fat. So literally, when you have a higher percentage or a higher amount of lean body mass, your basal metabolic rate is higher. So it really goes hand in hand. That's my number 2 thing in terms of how do you sustain weight loss after getting the metabolism flexible enough. It's protecting your muscle mass and increasing your lean body mass. And so lean body mass is extremely important. Muscle mass is extremely important. And so I believe and have observed in patients that we do in our program, they don't lose muscle mass because we are we are recommending resistance training, and we're doing fasting for our fat loss. So now let's talk about that part. When you go on a long fast, your body actually is going to release different neurotransmitters, a lot of adrenaline, noradrenaline, in reaction to the stimulus that's going on, which is the fasting. And so those, we call those class catecholamines as well. And so those are released, and those are actually very anti-catabolic. They're very protective against muscle mass. And so I always like to think of it ancestrally, right? We bring it back to our ancestors who did basically my program. By the way, guys, FLOW stands for fasting like our ancestors did. I can't believe I didn't say that. I got really
And
excited.
what is flow, Dr. Dean?
FLOW is the name of our program, the FLOW protocol. I was really excited when I came up with that name because I was trying to embody. So FLOW, FLOA, stands for fasting like our ancestors did. And so if we think about ancestrally, they didn't do the FLOW protocol by choice, but they did it by straight survival. They would eat and then they don't know when they'd get their next meal. And so if your body was wasting muscle mass right away within that first day or two, you just think logically, how would they be able to hunt and catch the next animal? Because you would need to be at your peak strength and mental acuity in order to be able to catch the next animal. Now, evolution speaks for the fact that the people that didn't have that adaptation probably died off. And so evolution is the theory behind why we observe this. Again, I can't point to randomized control studies that are going to prove a lot of what I'm saying, but I can tell you anecdotally from my observation with patients and myself, that's what we notice is that prolonged fasting is a lot more protective of muscle mass than literally more protective than people who eat every day. But when you eat every day and you have that caloric deficit, now that's a constant signal to your brain, weight loss, weight loss, weight loss. Therefore, the body tries to react to it by burning that muscle mass. Very, very different when the majority of your week's weight loss came in that 2-day fast, which is interesting, which is why we recommend in the program for the other 5 days, you don't want to undereat. It's actually what an awesome problem to have in a weight loss program. Don't undereat. But that's actually the instructions on the other 5 days. You need to eat a full day's worth of food because that sends a signal to the brain that you are not in a diet, that you are not fasting, that you are not starving. There's not a caloric deficit. And so it keeps that metabolism at a very, very fast rate, and it prevents that metabolically induced plateau, because anybody who's done weight loss on their own probably hit a plateau at one point or another. And that's a scary place to be. A metabolically induced plateau is literally where you increased your exercise or or started dieting, lost X amount of pounds. Now your weight loss has stalled and you're still dieting, exercising. It's a
That's right.
very fragile.
Who's noticed this? Who's tried to lose weight and then noticed it stopped? Or who's gotten stressed and noticed the weight loss stopped? Or who's stayed up all night or deprived yourself of sleep and noticed that you had trouble sleeping? Give me a like, give me a thumbs up, give me a roar in the chat. This is a big deal. So weight loss is not as simple as calories in, calories out. You got to use your metabolism. You got to liberate the fat so you can burn it for fuel, which is what some of these peptides do. You got to get enough sleep. Otherwise, your body will cling to fat because your body's afraid you're not going to have food, because our ancestors weren't stupid enough to go without sleep. Only we're stupid enough to go without sleep, right? Our ancestors, no way they're going without sleep. Ain't happening, right? So when you sleep well and you do eat proper food on the other days, fasting becomes much easier, and you're able to unlock the fat storage in your body, and you're able to lose the weight and keep it off, and you don't need to sacrifice all your favorite foods. Now, it's a good idea not to eat fast food every day. It's a good idea not to eat a ton of sugar. It's a good idea to not eat processed packaged foods, but you can eat those from time to time. Dr. Dean and I were arguing about potato chips. He's like, man, I can't give up potato chips. But on his diet, on this program, you don't need to, because you're burning so many calories those other 2 days that you don't need to stick to a super strict dieting schedule for the rest of your life. And so some of you have asked, how do I work with Dr. Dean? Where do I get this stuff? If you have any questions, make sure you get his free stuff. Please get his free stuff. He put this together for you. Click the link below my profile or go to robertlove.net. Can someone put that in the chat? robertlove.net. The first link is Dr. Dean's Sustainable Weight Loss Gifts for you. It's an ebook. It's a webinar. And then if you want to work with him, you can save 10% on that. Some of you asked about cost. The cost varies based upon how much weight you want to lose. and how you want to do this. And I mean, I don't know the cost, and it depends upon what is it you want to do, how long you want to be on the program, and so forth. Is it just managing weight loss? Are you trying to lose 50 pounds? This matters. And so make sure you get his free stuff because it's really valuable.
So
And let's see, what other
people,
questions do we have here?
yeah, on my end, people just mentioning about being stuck. So we will screen you. But I mean, there's not any complicated, formula. You'll know if you're in a weight loss plateau. So if you start our program, we will spend the first 3 to 4 weeks fixing that. There is a way to fix a metabolically induced plateau. I have a whole set of videos on that, and then we'll ensure because you don't want to start a new weight loss program, even my program. If you are in a weight loss plateau and you start this, one of two things are going to happen. You might get some initial weight loss and go into a deeper weight loss plateau, or you just won't get anything at all. And so it's very, very important if you're in a weight loss plateau that you got to fix that first. Even if you don't do my program, take my advice, stop the weight loss program, fix the weight loss plateau. And then I know you're going to ask me, well, how do I do that? And that's obviously a very complicated thing. But in essence, increasing your calories and increasing resistance training to offset the inevitable weight gain. You got to reset the metabolism and tell the brain that you're no longer dieting so that because it literally slowed down your metabolic rate. You literally will notice low thyroid symptoms. Anybody watching this that's there, you probably noticed when that happened. If you think about it now, you might have noticed your energy decreased, your brain fog increased, you started getting constipated. Maybe you noticed you were more intolerant to cold. You're not going to notice hair loss that fast. If you are noticing hair loss, then you really are screwing up your metabolism. That usually takes time, but those 4 symptoms are literal indicators that your thyroid hormonal output has situationally decreased because you freaking put it into a plateau.
So I want you all to hear how smart and Dr. Dean is and why he's so good at what he does. Right, just like with the stem cells, there's a pre-treatment, there's a treatment, and then a post-treatment for optimal results. Same deal with the weight loss. Before you come in, he wants to know: are you in a weight loss plateau? If so, we got to fix that, right? Because otherwise, you're not going to lose the weight and keep it off, right? So even before you're starting peptides, before you're starting the weight loss protocol, he's looking at, are you in a plateau? We need to fix that first. Otherwise, it's not going to work. I want you to understand how different this is than just an out of the box weight loss program where it's like, do these exercises and you'll lose weight, or eat these foods and you'll lose weight, or take this supplement and you lose weight. Yes, each of those can help a little bit for some time, but this is it's a program customized to you and your needs. And it's set up to be really successful by looking at your labs, your metabolism, where you want to go, what's going to work for you, and it's really, so plateau does not mean change. Plateau means kind of leveled off. So plateau is like this. Plateau is the level off. That's what it's meant to mean. And so I want you to understand how this is not your average program. This is an exceptional program by an exceptional human being who's lost 100 pounds himself. So if you came in late, Dr. Dean used to weigh 300 pounds. And now he's as you can see, he's a muscular 200 pounds. And he now helps people lose weight and keep it off with cutting edge peptide treatment. Aaron, the link is right below my profile. So click the link below my profile or go to robertlove.net and then get his free stuff. And some of you sign up for a call with him. That's a really good idea. If you do sign up for a call, you get 10% off, which is cool. Who likes money off? Big roar for saving money.
We do work with diabetics. Somebody asked, if you missed my caveat earlier, when you're a diabetic, fasting is going to be more tedious. Fasting is going to be slower onset. There's more caution, but absolutely, I'm a big believer that diabetics should be fasting. So your medical evaluation with my medical team, if you start with us as a diabetic, is going to go over all that with you, your medications. Look, if you're on diabetic lowering medications, you technically can't even take a GLP-1. But that's actually okay. We might as well talk about a backup, actually. I don't think I've even told you about this, Doc. Tesofensine is a peptide that we use only in situations when the person cannot get a GLP-1, right? So everybody needs that help with the hunger when they embark in a weight loss program. But unfortunately, either the contraindications would be being on other diabetic meds, acute pancreatitis active right now, a family history of thyroid cancer. Now, those aren't automatic, but they are situational, you're going to bring that up, have a conversation with our medical providers, and they're going to make that judgment call. But generally speaking, those can be and may be roadblocks. And so we get a lot of those. And so with patients like that, what do we do to suppress the appetite? AOD on its own will suppress the appetite a little bit, but not that magical amount that we like, where I like to call it plug and play. So tesofensine is another compound that's actually in phase 3 clinical trials right now. It was actually originally an Alzheimer's medication. And they realized as a side effect that it had an amazing effect on dropping weight. And it is a triple monoamine reuptake inhibitor, which is just basically a fancy way of saying it inhibits the reuptake of dopamine, of noradrenaline, serotonin, so serotonin, dopamine, and noradrenaline. So all three of those neurotransmitters, it's essentially increasing that amount in the brain. And so increased dopamine means better mental reduction in cravings for food. Then you have the noradrenaline, which increases the metabolic rate. And then you have the serotonin, which is going to help with that physical hunger too as well, the body's reaction to hunger. So this is pretty powerful, not as powerful as a GLP-1 as appetite suppression, but still pretty dang powerful. And that's going to be your only option for that. That will be the most potent option for people that can't get GLP-1s.
So you have solutions for people with different health issues. If they're diabetic, if they're on certain medications, if they have thyroid issues, if they have heart disease issues. What else was I saying? People are asking about heart disease, about diabetes, about thyroid, post-bariatric patients. So if you have questions about this, please get the free stuff. Get the link below. Go to the link below my profile or robertlove.net. Click on Sustainable Weight Loss with Peptides for Dr. Dean. Get his free ebook. The man wrote an ebook on this. Get that, and then schedule a call with his team. They'll answer all these questions about thyroid issues, about heart disease issues, about about diabetes issues. So there are tools, even if it's not the exact thing that he talked about, there are ways that can help you lose weight and keep it off. And then people are asking, how does this relate to brain health? One of the best things you can do for your brain is to lose weight, because the more weight you lose, the more likely you are to be physically active. Exercise is medicine for the brain. Number two, losing weight reduces the risk of diabetes. This is huge. Reducing the risk of diabetes is one of the very best things you can do to reduce your risk of Alzheimer's disease. So yes, this is about weight loss. I also want you to understand the power of peptides. I'm not the first one in this game. I feel like I'm late to the party, but you are early to the party for the consumer, because gosh darn it, peptides are the future of medicine. This is Tony Robbins wrote them about it in his book. Any new longevity book is coming out talking about peptides if they know what they're doing. This is safe, effective, sustainable, really powerful stuff for longevity, anti-aging, energy, losing weight, sexual vitality, sleep, muscle growth, you name it. Peptides are the cutting edge. I want you to get a sample of what's possible with peptides, and it's losing 20 pounds in 2 months. That's your average, right, Dr. Dean? You help you lose about 20 pounds in 2 months, and then they keep it off without peptides. So I just want you to understand what that is. So if you have any serious questions, like if you have a certain condition, you schedule a call. The calls are totally free, and they'll answer whatever questions you have. And then when you sign up, if you choose to work with Dr. Dean, you get 10% off when you sign up with the link that we have for you. So please check.
Somebody's I've got it all: hair loss, coldness, fatigue, help. I'm ready to go. So those symptoms are low thyroid symptoms, big time. So definitely reach out. We can help you. We actually do have the ability to prescribe thyroid because it's not a controlled substance like testosterone. So I don't think I even mentioned this. It kind of relates to what you were saying of checking as much as we can to make sure we get the best results. We do a comprehensive thyroid panel as well at the beginning for everybody, because let's say you're not in a metabolic plateau, but let's just say you have low thyroid and that hasn't been treated. So you got to get your thyroid treated in conjunction with the weight loss program. So we do bioidentical thyroid, and we can do that telemed. At least right now, it's super easy with the open prescribing right now before DEA changes that stuff next month. So at the very least, we can work with patients, get them started. We'll tell you if you obviously at the beginning, hey, here's your low thyroid. This is something that you should treat. Whether you stick with us afterwards, obviously in terms of the thyroid, once you start and embark on thyroid therapy, it's likely you'll need to keep it going. So whether that's with us or you can transition to a clinic wherever you're at, we do check thyroid as well, because that's important, and you got to have that optimal in order to get successful results too as well.
Thank you, Dr. Dean. And so it seems like some people are local to you. Erin on my TikTok says she works on the street that you work on, which is really exciting.
Oh,
Uh,
cool.
and so, by the way, Dr. Dean's office is state of the art medical. So I went in there. It's in a hospital, and he's got all the latest gadgets and tools. It's very cool. He's got the very best stuff. You have the best toys, right? You have the best toys for optimal health.
I do. I don't do functional medicine anymore because I only had like, so I did that for a couple of years working with patients, and now I couldn't love what I do more, because I have my practitioner set in place, because I wouldn't even have time to treat the patients myself. How can I? I mean, I probably spend the bulk of my time, besides running the company, researching these toys. They're toys. They're fun. The peptides, bringing them to the table so my providers, we can look at the research together. And the space is evolving so fast that literally is where I probably spend the most of my time. I do weight loss coaching myself still as well. Me and Jonathan still personally do all the weight loss coaching because we both love that. That would be the only hands-on stuff that we do in the clinic. And then the rest of what I spend my time is researching these peptides and staying up to date on all the latest and greatest in the optimization space. So
excellent. So we have a question. Are these peptides? What form are they? Are these injections? Are these pills? Are these both? Are these intranasal spray? And then some of you are asking really specific questions. I'm 70 years old. I have blood pressure, cholesterol. I want to lose 100 pounds. If you want your questions answered in detail, which is I think what you want, schedule a free call. Schedule it with the link below my profile, or go to robertlove.net and then click the first link. Like, seriously, it's really difficult for Dr. Dean to answer all of these questions about each specific case, especially as people are coming in and out. If you have a serious question and you want to learn more, schedule a free call. He's set aside operators, or he set aside people on his team to answer questions just from you, evolving lines here on my channel. And so you're going to get a lot of expertise on the other end of a call. So Dr. Dean's freeing up a lot of resources to answer your questions, because he can't answer everyone. So please, if you're serious and you really want to know these questions, sign up for a free call, no obligation, and you'll get your questions answered to see if this is right for you. If not, you get a free ebook and some free information about peptides and how you can use peptides in the future. Does that make sense? Give me a roar if that makes sense. I want to make sure everyone gets this. Sign up for the free ebook, get some free stuff. If you have serious questions, sign up for a free call. It's all free. And then if you work with Dr. Dean, you get a great discount when you work with him. But I want to make sure that you understand where to go to get these resources. He's there for you. All right. So what are we talking about? Oh, injections versus pills.
yeah. So peptides in general, the most common route of administration is injection, subcutaneous injection, which is basically an insulin-sized needle into any fat tissue around the body. That's going to be your most common form of administration. But peptides, some of them can be oral, just pills. Some can be nasal spray. Some can be transdermal creams. But the overwhelmingly majority is going to be injections. And our program, these two peptides are injections. The AOD is an injection. And then the GLP-1 is an injection too as well. So.
And good news, I've been doing injectable peptides. Kind of the more fat you have, kind of the less painful it is, right, Dr. Dean? Because you got something to pinch there. So I don't have much.
This guy has no fat.
I could use more fat, to be honest with you. I don't have enough. My face is not as full as I would like it. I'm injecting peptides into my belly. I'm like, my gosh, this hurts because there's not much fat there. So if you're doing this for weight loss and you got a little belly fat, it's not going to hurt. I've been injecting these small insulin needles in my belly. It ain't bad. And so poor people with injecting insulin, they're doing this multiple times a day. So if they can do it multiple times a day, you can do it for 2 months to lose weight and keep it off. And if you got belly fat, it's really not going to hurt. There's plenty of fat there to cushion the needle. It's not a big deal.
Fantastic. Do I recommend keto diet? Look, keto diet's great. And it's so funny with me. I'm so happy I met Dr. Love, because there's so much collaboration just innately between his beliefs, my beliefs, the demographic he's working with. He could talk way better than I could about how keto diet in of itself is great for prevention of Alzheimer's. That's probably, in my experience, the only times I ever prescribed keto long-term. I've never prescribed it long-term for any other reason than that. Any type of nerve issues like neuropathy. Anytime I had patients that came in from any type of neurological recovery, I would prescribe, and I observed when people went keto, their nerves function better. And so keto diet, I think is great situationally, can be probably recommended for a long time in situations like that. But we go back to the sustainable part about it. It gets difficult. It gets really difficult to keep up with keto diet super long term. And so, with the exception of neurological issues or post cancer, by the way, I'm a big believer that that's very, very helpful for that. Um, or even active cancer. I feel like it's tough to sustain. And when you're doing the fasting the way I am recommending and teaching you guys, you don't need to do the keto to get those effects because they both overlap tremendously in that metabolic flexibility. How is that possible? Because think about what keto is. Keto is the lack of carbohydrates that you're consuming. Okay. So therefore, your body is forced to burn dietary fat. What is fasting? Lack of all food. Therefore, your body is forced to burn your own body fat, which in essence, burning your own body fat versus burning dietary in fat is the same process in terms of conversion of the fat into usable energy. And so that benefit is going to be the same regardless. So keto, I think, is great situationally. And if you feel better on keto, the last part, go for it. I mean, I've had patients that love it, feel better off of it. Go for it. That would be because again, my main consideration is the ability to keep up with it. But if you love it and it's working for you, keep it up. I think that's great.
And to talk about keto for the brain, so as we age, our brain becomes less able to lose glucose as energy. And so a great way to increase energy available in the brain is to either go keto or take MCT oil or both. Okay, so Dr. Dale Bredesen talks about this. And he also talks about the importance of metabolic flexibility. Dave Asprey talks about this, who did Bulletproof Coffee, which is what Dr. Dean has been talking about if you're just joining us. Dr. Dean is a sustainable weight loss expert, and he's who I go for my longevity anti-aging treatments. And he has a protocol that helps people. It's been a 94% success rate for helping people lose weight and keep it off. 94% success rate is what he's working with. So he's got a great protocol. In this protocol, he teaches your body metabolic flexibility. You want to be able to toggle between burning glucose for energy and burning fat for energy. You want to be able to go between eating regular meals and fasting without pain. And on his protocol, that's what you learn how to do. And so at the end of, let's say you lose 20 pounds in 2 months, which is his average, by the way, that's pretty good. Your body is metabolically flexible to where you can fast easily without pain and effectively, so you're still burning fat so you can maintain your weight. So metabolic flexibility is great for the brain. It's necessary if you want to not have brain fog as you're older. I want to say necessary. It's really helpful if you don't want brain fog because a lot of brain fog is lack of energy for the brain. So you need to be able to mobilize fat for energy. Makes sense, right? So this protocol teaches your body metabolic flexibility, which is, Dr. Dean hinted at this. Keto is not sustainable for a lot of people because they're not toggling in and out for metabolic flexibility. In his program, you are gaining metabolic flexibility, which makes fasting easier, more effective, and it makes it easier for your brain to get energy. So all kinds of brain benefits, body benefits, weight loss benefits, diabetes benefits of doing this protocol that he's talking about here. So if you're just joining us, please enter your first name, where you're from in the chat. If you've learned something, please put what you've learned in the chat. I'd love to see that. I am reading the comments. By the way, so please put something you've learned. We're here with Dr. Dean DC, longevity anti-aging doctor who also specializes in sustainable weight loss. He's been sharing about how to lose weight loss with peptides. He's got a program that has a 94% success rate. If you got to go or if you just got here, get his free stuff. Click the link below my profile or go to robertlove.net. Get his free ebook on sustainable weight loss. And you also get a free webinar on sustainable weight loss. And if you have questions, you can also schedule a free call with his team to learn more about that. So please enter your first name, where you're from in the chat. And if you have questions or if you learned something, I want to see what y'all have learned. I know y'all are great students on my channel. Y'all are so smart. So I'd love to see what you got here.
So I got a great question. Can this be helpful for longevity and anti-aging if I don't want weight loss? So absolutely. So when you are metabolically flexible, your body is better at burning fat. We've established that and made that very, very clear. So if we kind of dissect that a little bit more, a little bit deeper, what is the difference in the effect on the body when you're utilizing carbohydrates for energy as opposed to utilizing fat? And in I'll keep it as brief, and you probably can elaborate way more better, way deeper than I could. But the oxidative damage, the side effect of processing the nutrients, the macronutrients, the calories to provide fuel for your body. It's a much cleaner process when you're burning body fat. The anti or the free radicals, that's what I was looking for. The free radical production. Free radicals, guys, are things that are produced that scavenge your body, and they're stealing an electron and causing havoc. And we know antioxidants and why vegetables and fruits are so good for us, because they neutralize free radicals. But when it comes to your body utilizing fat and ketones, it produces a significantly decreased amount of free radicals, and as opposed to burning carbohydrates, which is a lot more free radicals. So one of the components of any anti-aging program needs to be reduction of free radicals. And so by simply giving your body periods, doesn't have to be the whole time, but this is why I call keto, I'm a big fan of cyclic ketogenic diets. Cyclic ketogenic diets, I think, are phenomenal, and that's sustainable. Essentially, if you want to be extreme, you can go keto for 5 or 6 days a week and then have at least one day a week where you have carbs. And if you're doing active resistance training, that's the best day. If you're lifting weights, that's the best day to eat your carbs a little bit before and most of it afterwards. There's actually this really cool process. I'm kind of tangenting a little bit, but I think this is also very, very important for sustainable weight loss too. If you are going to treat yourself to some carbohydrates, do it after you lift weights. When you lift weights, there are certain receptor cells called GLUT4 receptor sites. They're receptor sites on your cells, on your muscle cells, that literally are independent of insulin and will draw in the glucose to your muscle cells. So as we know, when we eat carbohydrates, it produces insulin. Insulin will store the nutrients into the cells, but including the muscle and the fat. That is why one of the reasons why keto diets are effective for fat loss is because we're avoiding insulin, we're avoiding fat storage. But strategically, if you time your carbohydrates after a resistance training session, you get to take advantage of these GLUT4 receptors on your cells, which essentially soak up the glucose and by indirectly protect your fat cells, because you have these muscle cells via GLUT4 activation from weight training will literally protect your fat because they want the glucose preferentially over your fat cells. So in other words, time your cheat meal after you lift weights. I'm surprised I didn't say that.
Write this down. Write this down. Time your cheat meal after you lift weights. Your muscles will suck up that glucose. And if you are going to cheat, if you know you want to have ice cream or birthday cake, do an exercise beforehand, right? Exercise before you go out on Saturday night. If you know you're going to break your diet, great way to make it less harmful. Another secret, I like to take activated charcoal. Activated charcoal, especially if you're going to drink. If you want to drink but you don't want to have the negative impact of drinking on your brain, take some activated charcoal. It helps absorb some of the alcohol. It will reduce some of the bad things that happen to your brain. All right, so I was asking Dr. Dean. I was asking for feedback of what people learned. People are like, my brain is exploding. I've learned so much. So if you've learned a ton and you had trouble writing it down, get the free ebook. Click the link below my profile. So if you just tap on my picture, it'll take you to a link. And then click the first link that says Sustainable Weight Loss with Peptides. And then enter your name, email, and phone. And Dr. Dean will send you his ebook. And he'll send you his webinar on weight loss with peptides. So you don't need to remember everything you learned. This is a great place to ask questions and to learn. And he's got it all written out for you in his ebook. You can read whenever you like. And if you want to work with him, you get a great discount by registering at that link. So all kinds of great stuff. If you've learned something from Dr. Dean, please give a like, give a thumbs up, give a roar in the chat. We got 13.5 thousand likes. I bet we can double that because Dr. Dean, you've just rocked it so hard today. What other questions do we have for Dr. Dean? I know you gotta get going soon.
Let's see. Looking on my side too. I'm ready for his protocol. Yes, I do resistance training, anti-aging. The best peptides for weight loss, that's going to be your GLP-1 and your AOD 9604. I talk about that more in the ebook.
So you will get the protocol and the peptides in the ebook, right? He's giving you the protocol. He's telling you exactly what to do. how to do it, and telling you the exact peptides to take. And then if you want to work with him, you can, because he's got a great track record and it works. But you can get the name of the peptides and the steps of the protocol for free, which is really cool. You're really showing us the secret sauce. It's like you had you had the best restaurant in town, and you're giving us the recipe book.
So, well, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to share it with your community. Does insurance cover this? That's a phenomenal question. I wish it did. Now, let's talk about that because that kind of gets a little bit hazy when we talk about the GLP-1s. So, the GLP-1s, that's the Ozempic, the Mounjaro, the semaglutide, or the tirzepatide. So those are also diabetic medications. And so if you are a diabetic, your provider can make the choice to prescribe that for you. So we have worked with patients who are diabetic, who are on that medication from their PCP, and we'll work with you. We'll reduce that price because you already got that peptide. So if you're a diabetic and you are on that peptide, you certainly can work with us, and we can save you that part of the cost. Now, here's the caveat, though. When you are a diabetic on that medication, you are not going to get as much appetite suppressant effect of that as somebody who's not a diabetic. So that's the caveat. But we do have things that we can do with you to increase the effect of that, whether that be tesofensine or whether that be some other alternatives. But yeah, so you have that option too as well. Outside of those situations, there's also Wegovy. I'll talk about that. Wegovy is another pharmaceutical name. So there's actually two pharmaceutical names for the same peptide, semaglutide. Wegovy is semaglutide that was intended for obesity. That one is very weird because it technically should be covered if you're obese enough. But my experience talking to patients is most people have not been able to get Wegovy covered for being obese, even though that's its intended use. But the Ozempic, pretty straightforward. If you're a diabetic, your PCP has their own decision to make if they want to put you on that particular medication or not. And so the AOD is not covered by insurance. And so we just do a whole program that's just a cash rate that encompasses the whole thing, the peptides, the lab work, the unlimited coaching. Let's talk about that briefly. So I provide unlimited coaching. And again, me and Jonathan are the weight loss coaches. We have not hit a point where we can't help everybody. And maybe after doing this with Dr. Love, that's going to change. I don't know. But
Gosh, I hope so. I hope I bring you so many clients that just break your system. That would just
we're prepared to handle this because we have people that are ready to go to take over our non-weight loss stuff. So me and Jonathan will stick with our weight loss because this is just so exciting and so awesome. So there's unlimited Q&A with us nights and weekends. So we operate off of text message, and so you guys can literally text us any question on the program that comes up. And questions are going to come up because look, you're doing something that's drastic to your body. If you've never fasted for 48 hours, that's a pretty drastic stimulus. And so some stuff's going to come up. And so having the ability to shoot a simple question via text message and get an answer the same day within a couple hours, I kind of pride myself in that. And it actually saves us more time rather than having weekly, coaching calls. You just have the ability to get your question answered in a time sensitive fashion.
So I want you all to really get this. I've mentioned this a couple of times. It keeps on showing up. Look how thoughtful Dr. Dean is. So physically, emotionally, mentally, he's got you covered, right? So he's got the physical program that's really helpful, which is the peptides and the fasting protocol for weight loss. Emotionally, he's got you supported with the coaching and also helping you follow the protocol. And then mentally, the coaching is there to support you and to answer your questions, make sure you got what you need. So you're covered physically, emotionally, mentally, and it's once you get the peptides going on, and he's taking care of preconditions like plateau or thyroid problems. He's going to address those before going on the protocol, and then the sustainability afterwards. So he's got past, present, future, right? So he's got before the program, during the program, and then it's sustainable after the program. And he's got physical, emotional, mental covered. And he's answering all your questions nights and weekends. Like, he's really covered the bases here. Like, this is great. If you could throw in a foot massage and a regular house cleaning, that would really cover everything, Dr. Dean. I wouldn't need help with anything else.
Well, my experience with doing this TikTok with you already has me thinking that what I'm probably going to do is create a private for our weight loss patients, and then do probably twice a week just for them, unlimited Q&A for them. I just thought of that while doing this with you. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, just have your clients come in on TikTok and answer those questions. Then you could record that and then
Yeah.
have that available to anyone at any time.
Yeah, I think that'd be great between me and Jonathan. He's got so much more experience in the resistance training side than I do. He managed. We both managed gyms, but he managed for a lot longer than me. Crunch, which is, if anybody knows Crunch Fitness, that's a superb gym that prides himself at the highest quality personal training. And so what John did for over 6 years is he managed the personal trainers. He was an assistant district manager, and so his job was making sure that the personal trainers were doing the freaking best job they can to service their patients. And so that's a combination of weight loss and resistance training. So he's a stud, and he's my right hand guy when it comes to all this.
And I've met Dr. Dean's team, really great professionals, very smart, very savvy. Um, Professionals top to bottom, both procedurally and emotionally. They were lots of fun. And so Erin Smiles here on my TikTok is saying, I'm so inspired. She was also asking, are we coaching with you, or are we coaching with someone on your team, or other physicians? How does that work? By the
Right
way,
now, the coaching is me and Jonathan, and I feel confident that we're going to be able to do it for a while because, like I said, we're going to bring on some additional people to help take off the load for me and Jonathan from other services. And so, until me and John have 100% max capacity at weight loss clients, would be the point where we'd have to have to hire help for that. And I can promise you, I would hire somebody that they would have to meet my stamp of approval. So, but we are nowhere near that. And we have so much of the stuff that you need to know already in video format. So when you sign up, you have the book and the webinar, which even if you sign up before watching that, that's the first thing I do is make you watch that because you learn a lot there. Then we have everything written out in a protocol, literally bullet points. It's about a page and a half. The whole protocol is boiled down there. And then there's probably 8 or 9, 10 hours of private videos as well. And so you're given all that.
you don't need to watch all that, by the way. You don't need to watch the 8, 9, 10 hours. That's a resource that's available to you. So he's got you covered no matter what your emotional or mental challenges are. He's got the information for you, and he's got personal coaching for you. But you don't need, just to be clear, you don't need to watch all that to be part of the program.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. Yeah. So after you have a question, if there isn't a resource available, that's where we're available to keep you covered.
So people are asking for the link. If you double tap my picture, the very first link is my link tree, which has a number of links. And then click the first one that says Sustainable Weight Loss with Dr. Dean, or go to robertlove.net and then click the first link. So Julie and CR Happy, go to robertlove.net on your computer, or open a window, or click the link, or double tap my picture and click the link below my profile. It's the very first link. Yes, he definitely works out for women over 50. Working out without making changes to your diet, or incorporating fasting is unlikely to be enough, Greer. If it were just a matter of exercising, then every single exercise program would have sustainable weight loss. But it doesn't. So you got to incorporate more than just exercise. By the way, if you exercise without changing your diet or incorporating fasting, a lot of people gain weight, because what happens after you exercise? You eat because you're hungry, because you just burned a bunch of stuff. So people eat more after exercising. Exercise is great, by the way. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying it's not the path to weight loss. It's the path to health. If you want to have great health, get exercising right now. If you want to lose weight, you got to do something else. Dr. Dean's got a great program that helps with that. There are other ways to lose weight as well that are just about diet. They're just about dieting. They're just about fasting. But he uses peptides to make it easier and more sustainable for optimal health.
I gotta see twice here. What about metformin? Metformin's probably the most popular diabetic medication, and metformin is a basic drug for lowering blood sugar. It is a potential contraindication if you're on metformin to getting onto a GLP-1. Again, if you're on metformin, that's going to be a conversation you can have with our providers, and we can decide if we're able to still give you the GLP-1 or not. But any other diabetic medication might be a contraindication. So as far as what I think about metformin in just in general, I actually think that it's a pretty interesting drug that I'm in favor of for situational. There's actually a whole body of data, people looking at it from an anti-aging perspective. We don't have that incorporated into our, so you know more about it than me. We haven't incorporated that into our practice from an actual modality that we do for anti-aging only. I've read a lot of data on it. I think it's very, very promising. I'm in more favor of it doing what I see, but we haven't personally started prescribing that for just anti-aging. Are you a big believer that that's an awesome anti-aging?
Metformin is great, certainly for reducing the risk of diabetes, or excuse me, reducing the risk of Alzheimer's. So it's so powerful. It's better to have type 2 diabetes and take metformin than to not have type 2 diabetes and not take metformin as far as your risk of Alzheimer's. That's crazy. That's like, if the only way to get metformin is through having type 2 diabetes, you're praying for diabetes so you can reduce your risk of Alzheimer's disease. It's really, really powerful. Now, there are some side effects. I take metformin. Um,
Oh, cool.
and but you need to get a prescription from your doctor. It's not appropriate for everyone, and it may not be appropriate for people who want to lose weight in this fashion. There could be some interactions or something like that. So you want to so before taking any supplement or doing anything, you really want to check with your medical team to make sure it's right for you. And then Dr. Dean has a great medical team. That's just terrific, and they look at your labs, make sure everything's safe and appropriate for you. They do a really nice job.
Let's see. I think we've covered all the questions that somebody said it hurts me. I'm not sure what's hurting you. Maybe the excitement, right? The
Yeah,
excitement.
that's what it is. So if you're just joining us, Dr. You've been with us for 90 minutes here, answering questions about peptides for weight loss, sustainable weight loss. And so if you want to get his free ebook on how to lose weight sustainably with peptides, double tap my picture or go to robertlove.net. Click the link below my profile, and then click the very first link that says sustainable weight loss with peptides. And then enter your full information, and Dr. Dean will both text you and email you his free ebook. I know it's text. Is it also email, Dr. Dean? I want to make sure I'm
Yeah, it's a text and an email.
text you and email you a copy of his free book and the webinar. And then if you have serious questions about his program, you can schedule a free call. And then if you do choose to do any weight loss program with Dr. Dean, you get 10% off just because you're one of my viewers and you're awesome. So that's really pretty cool. So no reason not to sign up and get his free stuff. I don't know why it didn't, user 100. I don't know why it didn't work if you're in Canada. Send me a message on Instagram and I'll connect you with Dr. Dean directly. And we'll make sure you get your stuff. So if anyone had any problems, just message me on Instagram and I'll make sure you get all your stuff. Okay. I want you to get the free stuff and I want you to be able to get your questions answered. We're definitely going to do our best to take care of you. I will do my best to take care of you. Let's give a hand for Dr. Dean. Let's give a big roar. Let's give a big thumbs up. Put some love in the chat. Hit a like or a thumbs up. And please let him know how helpful this was, because this is just great, Dr. Dean. The peptides are truly, from what I've read and what I've experienced, the cutting edge and the future of longevity medicine, of anti-aging. Weight loss is perhaps the biggest application. Um, you know,
Right.
so many wonderful things. So thank you so much for sharing all this. This has just been tremendous. Should we have Dr. Dean back? Let me know if we should have Dr. Dean back. We're gonna have to check with his schedule. Um, but I'd love to have you back, Dr. Dean, to answer more questions about peptides, both for weight loss as well as anti-aging. Let me know if
Yeah.
y'all are interested in longevity and anti-aging questions, because he touched on two peptides. There's 7,000 peptides, but there's 150 that are prescribed regularly. So people are saying, yes, have him back.
Yeah. So some categories of peptides, if you guys want to let Dr. Love know, and we can schedule something. The growth hormone peptides are awesome to talk about. Those are peptides that stimulate your brain to release its own natural release of growth hormone, as opposed to taking actual growth hormone. So those are amazing. I actually like to recommend those to people after the weight loss program. That's a good transition as an option for optimal wellness. So you have
That's
growth.
like building muscle, right? People can build muscle more easily. So you can lose weight with peptides, and then you can keep the weight off with fasting because you're metabolically flexible. This will make sense if you've been watching this whole program, and then you can build more muscle afterwards, right? After you've lost the weight, burned the fat, then you can put on more muscle. I took some peptides for growth hormone for a little bit. I noticed very quickly muscle mass. I was like, holy cow, that worked really fast.
Yep. So we got the growth hormone peptides, we got immunity peptides, thymosin alpha 1. This one is freaking awesome because it literally is one of the main peptides that are the beginning processes of your body's entire immune process, which is very, very complex process that has many cell mediated and humoral different aspects to it. But basically, you have a peptide that your body has that when you inject this peptide dramatically enhances your own immunity. And so that you can Google this peptide. They've used it to treat many different conditions, and now it's available for immune support. And so definitely something that you can not just necessarily take when you're sick, but also it can be part of your. I use it frequently in our clinic for when you're on a healing cycle. So if you're post surgical, if you're recovering, if you're under a great amount of stress, and let's say I can't get sick in this next 3 months. This is the most important. You're in one of those situations. Thymosin alpha 1 is a phenomenal preventative. It'll also help you when you are sick, but I like the idea of using it in situations in your life where you just can't afford to get sick. Then TA1 is your go-to. So we have that for immunity. We have healing peptides for straight musculoskeletal healing, which work in completely different pathways than stem cell and regenerative medicine. You have peptides that support healing, and then you have cognitive peptides for literal stuff that's more in your space. So I actually am super excited to hear your feedback after you dig
Yeah,
into.
I'm researching the peptides on that are cognitive enhancers. Those are going to be great. So a lot of people are asking about these peptides for healing and so forth. So if you want to get in touch with Dr. Dean, click the link below click my link or go to robertlove.net, fill in his stuff for his free ebook, and then in your form say I want to learn more about the peptides for healing, the peptides for immune system, the peptides for helping with a bone repair, whatever it is. Anything peptide is Dr. Dean. He's who I go to for my peptides. And so if you want to get peptides, if you want to learn more about peptides for optimal health, whether it's weight loss or immune function or any of these things, contact Dr. Dean. And the easiest way to do that, where you get some free stuff and a great discount, is robertlove.net, or double tap my picture, which is, I think it's up there if you're watching this, and then click the first link, enter your full contact info. Someone mentioned you didn't get your ebook. Message me on Instagram. I'll make sure you get it. It might just take a little while, or you might have entered your phone number incorrectly, or if Canada is blocking it, I don't know. But we'll make sure you get your stuff for sure. But anything peptide, contact Dr. Dean. Tell him you saw him on this live, and then you can schedule a free consult with his team to see if peptides are right for you and get you the testing required to make sure that they're appropriate for you, right? It's not just simple as you call up and say, hey, I want peptides. He gets a blood sample, right? He sat me down in the chair. Dr. Love, I need a blood sample. I got to check to make sure these peptides are right for you, make sure they're safe for you, make sure we get the dosage right. And so, this is a very scientifically involved process. And so, please don't just order peptides online. It's not safe. No one that I know is recommending that. It's just not a good idea. You need to get them prescribed from a professional, and make sure that they're testing you to make sure it's right for you, right? Just handing out peptide scripts is not the right way to practice helping people. So contact him for any of that.
I'll just talk about that real quick because I think it's important to know. There are companies that sell peptides. They're called research. They're research compounds, and so all over the website you're going to see slapped with labels not for human consumption, usually over the bottles too. And so obviously it's common sense to think I'm doing something similar to what them. So of course people are going to always think with that. So I just like to be very candid with people. Like, am I concerned about you taking something that's going to be foreign and harm your body? Probably not. But what I'm concerned about is you just not getting what you paid for. And so even though they're going to come in at you significantly cheaper, we get a ton of people that think peptides don't work until they try the real deal. So just to take it for what it's worth, I think if you are somebody who really needs the help and legitimately can't afford anything but those, I would do it. And I'm sitting here telling you the guy that I sell the other one. So I want you to get the help wherever you're at, but my confidence in the efficacy of those peptides are very low. And so, you're going to have to just kind of make your own decision with regards to that route versus, prescribed from a US based compounding pharmacy where you know what you're getting.
Absolutely. It's really, really important for quality and safety and efficacy and so forth. Awesome. Well, Dr. Dean, we're going to have you on again soon to talk more about peptides. There's so much here, and I need to do some research. I don't like the word need. I'm choosing to do the research because it's awesome on
Yeah.
the peptides for cognitive
Yeah.
enhancement. That's really cool. And so if you're just joining us or haven't done yet, get Dr. Dean's free stuff. He's got an ebook on sustainable weight loss. He's got a webinar on sustainable weight loss with peptides. Click my link. Click the link below my profile, or double tap my picture. Click that link, and then the first link says Dr. Dean Sustainable Weight Loss or Sustainable Weight Loss with Peptides. Fill out the information. You'll get the ebook. You'll get the videos. You can schedule a free consult call if you have questions. All kinds of great free resources for you. And then anything peptides, please contact Dr. Dean in that way, or mention my name, so that way you get the nice Dr. Love discount there. Awesome. Dr. Dean, thank you so very, very much. This has just been awesome.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Doc. And I look forward to coming back and talking with you and your audience.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Dean. Once again, please put some love in the chat for Dr. Dean. Hit the like, hit the thumbs up button, give a big roar in the chat. Evolving Lions, thank you for subscribing to the channel, and so we can bring on great experts like Dr. Dean. It's because I have such a great following of wonderful people like yourself who are great learners, who are interested in self-development, wellness, and learning and neuroscience, that people like Dr. Dean want to come on here. So thank you for being part of this, and thank you for being here. I love you.
See you guys
Awesome.
later.
Thank you, Dr. Dean. Adios, amigo. All right. So for those of you just joining us, please put your first